And in the chat, I just wanted to note that this is the office hours for the new regular COC applications. We will be doing this special NOFO application training, not next week, but the week after. And if you aren't already signed up for that, I will put the sign up form in the chat. Or you can just reach out to me directly and I can send it to you. But David, you have a little spiel? That was my spiel.
I do not.
Yeah. Okay, folks, well, raise your hand. Yeah, raise your hand. We'll call on you.
I was going to say, we have some people here who have been through this process before. So, you know, Nora and I welcome, you know, any input or answers that you may have in the process also. Appreciate that.
Anyone?
Oh, sorry, was I supposed to? Does anyone have questions? I didn't know if I was supposed to invite the questions yet, or just this is your time, and we'll do our best to answer them, knowing that August 30th is coming quickly.
This is Kelly. We're actually just going for the supplemental, but I'm here to just kind of listen and learn and absorb since I'm new to the process overall. So I'm a fly on the wall.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, I think you'll find that the process is very similar. Just different questions that are being asked.
Well, how's it going, folks? I guess if we're not going to have any, I haven't heard any direct questions yet. You can also send questions to me directly in the chat if you would like, and I can read them for you. Just want to put that out there. I am also an introvert who hates talking, so I will do it for you.
And, you know, I see new names and people here. So, you know, specifically if you're new to the RCOC and the process, and you know, so if you want to even know about the process, not necessarily the application, this is the time to ask that too.
Yeah, I would love a brief overview of the process.
Okay. Nora, would you like me just to kind of go through it?
You
Okay.
go, I'll add.
Okay, so for this NOFO in particular, it'll be similar for the supplemental, but for this one, every year HUD basically what we call drops this NOFO. It's usually in August, and they give us the drop dead due date, which is September the 30th. And then from that time, they come back and they say, they give us dates that we have to follow during our timeline from start to finish. So for instance, we have to have all applications 30 days before the full application is due. So we're given, you know, you need every application by August the 30th. All right, so we don't have wiggle room on certain of our time frames. Okay, so we start the process, we generate our application, and I'm hoping that you've seen, these are questions that, you know, obviously to make sure that you meet certain thresholds, and those thresholds are required by HUD, literally coming from their NOFO. And then, you know, to find out about your agency, any background, are you financially solid? If you're not, why? So we really want to get the high quality, you know, projects, and as many as we can across the state. So you apply as a new applicant. And then we have what we call renewal applications. So if you do receive funding in 1 year through HUD, the following year, you can automatically write for a renewal. And the renewal right now is basically, tell us how you did. You know, how many did you serve? How, you know, just questions about data, okay? But the first one is to get your foot in the door. And then what HUD has given us, they tell the ROC, for instance, you're gonna get, I'm gonna say a random $1 million. And that $1 million is going to get chopped up into however you need to chop it up. But what you have to do is take every application, you have to score them following some type of a template. So they're all being scored fairly, as closely as possible. We have to rate and rank them. So the highest score to the lowest score. In fact, we have to give HUD the list of rating and ranking. And then we take the $1 million and we have to figure out how to divvy it up across everyone in the rating and ranking. Okay, so what will happen first is there's money set aside, and this is where Nora, you might have to help me. So money is set aside for the renewals. And then there's money that is potentially possible for new applications. Okay, and when I say potentially possible, it also requires a larger collaborative application that the ROC has to apply for and get scored by HUD before they take any of our applications in the final package. So the ROC coordinated collaborative application has to meet a higher score, a higher threshold, which then determines the release of how much funds are going to come back to the ROC. And that's when new applications start getting picked up. Okay, so we've always met the threshold, but HUD will come back and say, okay, now you have $100,000 to put towards new applications. You know, your applications are ranked and scored also. And so we would probably use that $100,000 towards the highest ranking one. And that's kind of it in a nutshell, you know, and then there's the process you run to actually run the program and keep HUD updated on that. So it's very scripted or prescribed by HUD about what we have to do and what we have to give them to show that we did it, including posting the whole NOFA publicly. Does that help?
How successful have we typically been with the new applications? I know that we're trying to make some adjustments this year to be more successful. So I guess I just want to make sure I understand how and when the amount that's available for new applications is determined, and if that's partly based on our application process.
Yeah, so, you know, going back my couple of years, this is the most in-depth I've been in this process. So I'm going to go back and what I believe has happened. So 2 years ago, we had several new applicants. So I also want to throw out here that there's money set aside for DV projects. So HUD really, they say, separate from that $1 million, we're going to put $500,000 to new DV projects. All right, so that's a separate amount of money. All right, so 2 years ago, we had several new proposals that got funded. Okay, so once you're funded, you go into that renewal. So that happened a couple of years ago. Last year, we only had one application that made it. I think it's true. One application that made it through. I think we had maybe another one that didn't meet the threshold. So we had one make it through. That agency decided to split, this is my understanding, to split their new one between tier 1. Oh, now we're getting into the details. They split their application between 2 funding streams, and they were not funded by HUD. HUD came back and said, no, you can't fund it. And I think potentially the mistake was they were trying to break across tiers of funding, if that makes sense. And if they might have done it as one project in one area, one category, they might have been funded. So last year was not a really good year in evaluating the new grants. But the previous year, I think we had probably maybe 4 or 5, but I think most of them were DV related. I think. It's a good question. You know, and I'll add, I'm going to keep talking. You can tell me to be quiet if you want. I will add, and I know we're not talking about the next supplemental, because that's a even harder competition based on what my research. Yet it really hones in on our rural communities. It's specifically for COCs such as ours. So concentrating on the most need, like the areas that don't have the resources. There's a priority on working with our indigenous communities, you know, so it's very different, focused. And they're all going to be new applications. So that's why we're, you know, there's a potential for two different complete funding streams. Yeah, but we have to meet the threshold as a COC collaborative application to even get funded in that second one. And you
Can
can
we
write both.
clarify, the new project that you said didn't get funded last year,
Yeah,
and you think that's because they split their request into 2 tiers? Do you mean
Yeah.
they had 2 different types of projects?
yeah. So this is where I might get Dean Nor to jump in, but there might still be 3 tiers of funding. So HUD will say, here's $100,000 to go to your first tier. Here's potentially $50,000 to go into your second tier. And the tiers are based on rating and ranking. All right. So if we want to make sure we continue to fund our renewals, then we're going to put that $100,000 and do our best to keep them funded. If there's if there's funding left in that $100,000, then the next highest score would go into tier 1. And tier 1 is the most likely ones to always get funded first. Right. So if you fall into tier 2, that's the next round. If we have additional funding, if you're doing a DV project, then we can now apply those funds to anything in that tier 2. And so the agency I was talking about tried to get some of the extra funding in tier 1 because CAPO or the ROC released some funding that we wanted to give to agencies. And they asked for that part of it, but then they also fell into tier 2. And HUD said, I guess came back and said, we just don't like the way you did that. Because they decide, you know, frankly, they can come back and say, you rated 100% on your application. And they may say, well, we're not going to, but you know, it's a very interesting process. But anyway, hopefully I answered your question, Kelly.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, the tiers are it's a very complicated calculation of how the funds get distributed.
And do we lean on our like HUD technical assistance folks for help during this process? Or do we do any like meeting with local or state HUD staff to kind of advocate for our proposal or set it
Yeah.
up for more success?
No, they will absolutely zip their lips. They cannot impact anyone's application. We've tried, you know, but they can say it's due on the 30th, but they will not participate. That's, you know, because it's a competitive process.
Even the technical assistance folks won't help us navigate the process?
Nope. I know. They can't, you know, suggest software. They can't tell you how to write a grant. Yeah. But there's a lot of resources out there. You know, I want to emphasize that not only does HUD have resources, but USICH, which is a national homeless provider organization, actually not a provider, they're a research resource. And they do webinars. I mean, there's so much information out there about how to write grants in a way that might help, you know, not get HUD support specifically, but give you HUD's what they're asking for. I guess what I'm saying. HUD tells you exactly what they want in your answer. No question. If they say answer ABC and they say ABC is this, you answer ABC. They're pretty black and white.
David, there's a question about some dates with HUD. And that's what I've been trying to look for. That's why I look like I am not approving of what you're saying. So it looks like HUD sent out an email about and it says the COC program registration opened on March 4th, 2022 and closed on April 7th, 2022. The COC program review step opened May 31st, 2022 and closed on June 3rd, 2022. Do you know what that is? The COC program registration? Is that something that we have to do? Or is that for new COCs?
I have registered all of our applications and they've been accepted. So I have our current collaborative, I have the supplemental. So we are registered as a COC. So I don't know exactly what those dates mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm just gonna say that those deadlines wouldn't have impacted whether you can apply to this year's NOFO. Because those are just weird deadlines. We weren't even thinking about the NOFO in April. But this year we did do something a little different that we hadn't done before, and we created an intent to apply form. And that was something so we could just track who we were going to get applications from and check in on folks. Especially with our renewals, I knew who we had projects for. So I reached out to them and I was like, hey, the intent to apply deadline is tomorrow and I haven't seen it. Are you applying? Or I had also talked to some folks at the in-person meeting who I knew were going to apply and I didn't see their intent to apply. And so I reached out to them and was like, hey, you really got to do this. But this year we did make it a rule that you have to submit the intent to apply. And the deadline for that was, I think, August 17th. And we post everything on our ROC updates. So if you are not on our listserv, reach out to us and we'll put you on there. We also post everything on our website. So you can go on there at any time and see where we're at with the NOFO process. But it always happens in August to October. It's always going to be this year. So if next year, if you couldn't get in this year, but you're like, hey, wait a second, I want to apply for that, and you haven't heard anything from us by like August 1st, reach out to us, get on our listserv, and we'll keep you updated.
I see the dates that you have mentioned. So I'll check in on that.
Yeah, I was so confused because it said you had to register your COC, and I was like,
we do have to register. So it might be register your COC for, I'll look into it. So we're registered. I mean, I went on there and accepted. So
yeah, that actually was a question from our grant writer. They were asking if the COC's registration was all up to date, including the SAM registration and the UEI number requirement.
Yep, we are all registered. Sam has been awful this year, but we finally got it figured out.
Thank you.
I don't know, folks. Do you have any other questions, even about like the ROC or what David and I do? I'm going to be honest, I normally don't work with the ROC. I'm our operations and grants manager. So I am covering while we are in between ROC program coordinators, but I also worked on the NOFO last year and I worked on the PIT this year. I just can't get away from you. So I do know a little bit about the ROC if y'all have any questions. And like I said, you're more than welcome to reach out to David or I or the ROC email. I'll put all of those emails in there. If you have specific questions about this year's NOFO application or process, please email them to the roc@caporegon.org email, just so we could keep track of them. But if you have any general questions about the ROC or CAPO or HMIS with David or grant management with me, don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for.
I have another question. I have a lot. I just want to make sure I understand, you know, on the timeline and the materials that you all have posted on the website for both this and the supplemental competition, it says, you know, don't submit project applications and e-snaps until these dates when we've done the final review and stuff. So you all submit the overall application, and then we also submit our individual ones by the deadline, correct?
Yeah, because when you guys submit your applications, it connects to our collaborative application on eSnaps. So we actually have to go in, and after the whole rating and ranking process, we have to go in and rank you in eSnaps. So that's why we wait for folks to submit their application, because we have to wait to see what everyone's rank is if you're going to be in there this year. And if there's a bunch of applications in there before we've already done on that, it's just kind of confusing. And then we'd have to, I don't even know if we have the ability to like remove applications from ours. I think you would have to go in there and remove it yourself. So we just like to send everyone an email that says, hey, go in, submit in the next 48 hours, and then we can rank and submit the whole thing.
Yeah, and Kelly, I think you can put all the information in there. You know, you don't have to wait. You just have to submit it at a certain time. So you wouldn't want to wait to fill it in and do it. It's a lot to fill out.
Right. And by that time, the ranking and review has already happened on the part of the ROC through the rest of our timeline based on the Excel document, like applications and stuff that you all of us are, right?
Yep, the rating and ranking will
It's
be
just a matter of entering it into the official system.
Yeah, so the rating and ranking will be done, completed by Friday, September 9th, and then we will notify everyone on Monday, the 12th, what your rating and ranking is. Or Friday afternoon, depending on timing of when our rating and ranking committee finishes.
And then we're required, and it makes sense, you know, we have time where you can appeal your score. And then any letters you send will go back to the scoring committee to talk about it. And you get an official notice if it's been accepted or not. And then that's the executive committee votes on the final submission of application. So there is that time in there if you feel like you need to add some input to the process.
Great, thank you.
And I'll just add, if you're thinking about the supplemental application, you know, I would, you know, Kelly, I know based on your questions, you're already starting to write it. I would just start as soon as possible. I tried in that application to ask the questions almost specifically coming out of the HUD NOFO. And the HUD NOFO tells you exactly the kind of answers they want. So it's a lot, you know, it really is a lot of work. They're really pushing us in this competition for this supplemental. So start early so you can ask your questions. I think we're all in agreement that we want to get as many people scored so that we can get as many out to HUD to show that the need is here. So in this case, we really want to help everyone as much get that score.
So far, we have 5 intent to applies for the special NOFO.
And I watched the webinars and they didn't indicate anything about this, but have you all received any guidance from HUD saying people are going to be more likely to get funded for the supplemental if they have regular, like annual COC competition funds? It doesn't seem to be part of the scoring or anything, but they're not weighing that, right?
Yeah, I haven't. The only connection that I can think of is more on the ROC level, you know, because we have to do the collaborative piece. We have to answer how we're doing with data. That's how they're connected. But I don't think the applications are in competition at all. They're completely separate than the normal annual.
I think that's one of the reasons that they separated it in total and made the dates different to so people wouldn't get confused and be like, wait, I'm applying for this, but I'm also applying for this. Am I competing against one another? Because it's completely separate pots of money. It's new money. Okay, folks, well, if we don't have any questions, I'm going to call it because I'm sure you guys are as busy as I am because you have applications to write. So here's the last chance, 30 seconds. You can put it in the chat, you can unmute yourself, or you can send us an email.
I'll add one more thing. For those of you who are new to the COC, one of the questions is about our homeless management information system. If you want to know if it's completely brand new to you and you want to know more about it when you get to that question, I am happy to talk about HMIS. You have to use it. So reach out. I don't mind offering some education about the COC so that you understand what we're doing and kind of give you some context that you may or may not have. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, or I know Nora puts 2 other emails out there you can reach out to.
This is, I'll just ask it because I was going to email you all anyway. It's about the supplemental, but does the ROC have serving individuals and families experiencing homelessness with severe service needs plan on file?
Nora, I think we need to look at our maybe our governance document and see if it's defined, if we've defined our priorities. I know that somewhere we should have defined chronically homeless as a priority because I know that's been around for a while, but we need to look at our governance documents to make sure that definition was there. It's a good question.
Yeah, there's a heavy emphasis on that with the supplemental, which I know is less time sensitive than the standard, but that's one of the questions we started looking at, because I think it asks project applicants to then explain how their project aligns with that plan for the overall continuum. So we'd love to have a copy if there is one.
Yeah, if we have one, it's going to be in the governance. I don't think it's in the HMIS policy and procedure amendment. Pretty sure it's not, but we should check that.
Kelly, can you type that in the chat? Because I did not catch all the words that you said.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll look into that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, folks. Again, send us emails, and it's due on Tuesday, the 30th. So we're almost there. And like I said, you'll submit your applications to rock@caporegon.org, and then we will send them to the Rating and Ranking Committee, and they are meeting the week of the first full week in September. And so you should hear back by September 12th at the very latest for the regular one. And then we'll start doing more trainings on the special NOFO. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.